What's going on, everybody? It's Awesome TCG Discussions coming at you with video number 3, where we discuss basically green, blue, and yellow, and basically how they function coming into the Set 17 ban list format, and basically what to kind of like expect from them as colors, and what it kind of is going to kind of mean for you to play these colors and what I think will be the top decks for each one. So the first thing to note is that when I made this list, yellow, which is the strongest, I think, color in a way, post-ban list, aside from like red, like was the hardest one to come up with decks for, but simultaneously like has two incredibly broken decks. So like I don't have a very long list for yellow, so I'm going to start with that, go to green, then surprisingly enough, despite the Soul Striker errata, blue has the most decks that I think you could have representing like just in color variety of decks to play and be competitive and somewhat win. And then yeah, like honestly it's kind of nuts. So let's just dive into it. We'll see what you guys think of this, and I hope that this video it gives you some deck ideas and leaders to play and kind of what to work with. So the first thing I want to touch on is green. Green has actually, in my opinion, 3 very solid leaders that you could go with to build. And I'm going to start with what I feel is a very underplayed and underrepresented green leader, and that's Starter Brawly, okay? So I have a list, I believe, on the channel, and a list that if I played Starter Brawly, I'd be playing it immediately. Just to like give you guys an example of like a true hand destruction deck. Like I feel like as far as hand destruction is concerned, that leader does it almost effectively over time, like dwindling your opponent's hand size down over multiple turns. I think it does it the best. And I also think that like against Cell would struggle immensely. And I mean immensely against Starter Brawly in the version that I play. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Cell here in a second, why Cell's great, but it has its weaknesses. So Starter Brawly obviously can just generate 6 cards a turn. So in a hand destruction-esque mirror match, it doesn't really matter. Like it honestly just doesn't matter. Having a limited hand size to about 6 to 7 cards, though, does basically feel pretty bad. And, like, if your opponent does have hand destruction as capabilities or has the ability to, like, produce more pressure than your defensive cards can handle or they answer your defensive cards, then you're in for a little bit of a rough ride. But what I will say is that once you get the Brawly unison established, and Starter Brawly, if you have 4 life left and like the ability to like play dormant and protect yourself, you will destroy your opponent from there because you basically don't have to tap energy for literally anything. So what do I mean by Starter Brawly? So obviously you play like your Boo, you play your Dormant, you play your Charismatic, you play your Zamasu, you play all your hand destruction cards. But the Cell Surge Brawly Unison chain that you use, I think it's like Overwhelming Evil, that chain played in Starter Brawly is nuts. Because you basically draw into all the pieces all the time. Your leader has a pop effect on it. So you can, like, for example, play a Paragus, pop it with your leader, pop one of their battle cards, trigger the freeze at a free play, untap an energy, play the Demigra unison effect, search a ball, use the ball, swing with 15k critical, then use the ball to go up in the Frieza, swing double strike or whatever, and then essentially activate main with the card, add the ball back to hand, and then just crush another card out of your opponent's hand on top of the Brawly Unison and whatever else you're assigning to play. So, like, really, really good. You can play your Rosie alongside of it, and, like, literally everything I just described to you in that, like, one essence, like one set of plays is free. So, like, it has insane capabilities. I think the Star Brawly is the most consistent hand destruction deck, period. Next, we have Gotenks. I love Gotenks as a deck. It does the same thing, but it colossally dies to Cell. Like, just colossally dies to Cell. Cell will just remove all of your pieces over and over again and constantly swing it to Unison, making your Union Fusion, like, good, but a little bit weird. But it does basically the same thing you do, except for it has a stronger hand destruction strategy by turn 5. A really strong hand destruction synergy by turn 5. And it feels pretty bad. The other thing is that if you're Gotenks and you go first, and you play the Hercule to, like, really search your pieces, that card is not living against Cell or other easy, like, spot removal decks, either through leader effect or cards that they play. It just doesn't live. And so, like, I can't express enough how key that card is to the deck and how bad it feels that when that one thing is popped, your entire strategy is thrown off. You only really need one to resolve in a game. But that one time resolving feels pretty bad. Feels pretty bad if you don't get it, like, to stick. And if your opponent, for example, is playing Red Brawly, which, by the way, Red Brawly is a deck that I didn't mention previously, so, like, it's an honorable mention here. Red Brawly will just run over Gotenks long before, you get set and sturdy in your ways. But Gotenks also draws a ton of cards while never losing advantage. Like, Union Fusioning Reaper with the Unison on the board is, like, one of the best feelings ever, period. And the free play Gohan with the Unison and your Unison's ability to make that blocker have revenge and have Dormant with that Unison already, that blocker present on the board. One protects Unison, protects your life, and all this other stuff. Gotenks also has another problem that Cell doesn't, and that Cell's Awaken condition takes him straight to 5 life. And Gotenks doesn't, takes him down to 6, so feels kind of bad. Now moving on, we're going to talk about Cell. Cell, here's the thing about Cell. Cell has a really hard time going first. Really hard time. Like, you have to figure out what you want to charge, pray to God you have a 1-drop in your hand, play it, you put it under, and then basically pass. So your opponent's basically, during the first turn, going to do whatever they want. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. Now, the thing that's really tough, and I mean really tough, is that if your opponent doesn't play a battle card on their first turn, basically you're just playing Unison, passing. Like, I mean, like, honestly, like, that's it, right? Like, you didn't really net any advantage. That, or you play, like, the androids to, like, get more underneath it or whatever. So, like, there's just a lot they can do to, like, slow down your early game or make, like, your early game suboptimal. And if they play cards that are above the energy cost curve, it feels really bad. Like, for example, like, if you sat down against, like, Dark Brawly and you're going first to Cell, and then they draw, and they have, like, Ball and, like, 1-drop Savage Rush, and then they Realm Ravager, a card out of your hand, you're actually crying. Like, it feels so stinking bad that I can't. And the other thing is this: Cell sometimes gets a little clunky. Like, when Cell runs on all cylinders, boy, does it feel good. Like, when you can get by, like, turn 2 to turn 3, the 8-drop on the board with Dormant, you feel pretty invincible. But like outside of that, Cell's like it kind of hurts. Now netting the advantage, pretty good. Um, you technically can like awaken on turn two. I could see a world where like if you had like an 18-17 or an 18-18, 17-17, you play, put under, next turn, play, put under, and then filter under. But you have to realize that like you're committing a lot of cards from your hand. Yeah, you're gonna untap an energy, you get to play your units and hopefully get defensively set up, but you're not really playing or doing anything until turn three, and that feels bad. Now, here's the thing about Cell though. If Cell goes second and your opponent plays a battle card, holy crap, if they draw correctly, they will just flat out floor you. Like that deck just flat out floors you. It generates way too much advantage quickly. It's the leader swinging for crit while drawing a whole bunch of cards, getting a whole bunch of things underneath it. You can pop multiple cards. Boy, blues like cantrip, one drop draw Kais, those are dead. Okay, gone, finito, not working anymore. Cell just like destroys everything, right? Like if it don't got barrier, right, you're just rolling the dice out here. Like, and even against like an aggressive deck like Red Brawly, right? And that's another thing, Cell, as I mentioned before, Star Brawly, like Cell hurt, like early hand destruction hurts. So like Red Brawly being like ripping cards out and saying, yeah, I'm gonna beat your face in, and you like -2 to every time you play Dormant, right? Like, if you don't get that draw engine going with the Union, feels bad. I'll tell you what also feels bad. Your one drop Cell's getting like Vegeta Resolve renewed. That happened to me twice last time I was playing against my wife, and oh my gosh, sucks. All that to say is that if Cell doesn't start generating advantage between the Unison and the Union absorb effect, it's going to get weird. This is going to get weird. If you play against high barrier removal or high removal, also feels really bad, which the mirror match kind of does, but it doesn't have barrier removal. Your 8-drop gets a lot weaker. But I mean, like, again, like if Dark Brawly plays Fearless Fusion and they stand on the 4-drop, it's gone, right? Like that card ain't gonna live much longer. You don't really care about it. Last green deck that we're gonna talk about is Cooler Unison build. Double Charismatic is dumb, and the SR Golden Frieza that just board wipes on Empower, like 4 when it comes in for 4 markers, counterplay, just KO all of your opponent's battle cards. Holy crap. That card is a bomb, okay? That card, it's a bomb. Like, it is so good. Like, you just can't sleep on it at all. And that deck it's got a lot of potential in my opinion. We'll see. We'll see just how it goes. Moving on to blue, okay? Blue, like I said, has like the biggest list. I'm not going to talk about these as much as I did for green. I'm a little bit more familiar with the green. Not that I'm not familiar with all these blue decks, but a lot of these decks are decks that we've already seen. And again, these are just some ideas for you guys to have. So Gamma 1 and 2 coming out of the new set. There seems to be some flaws with the deck. But its game plan can be solid and good if it works right. SS4 Vegeta, obviously, it's probably best blue deck in the game. SS3 Reboot, probably closely right behind it if you don't consider the Super Saiyan God Goku one. I think SSG Goku is still unsolved. I think that there's a lot of potential with this leader. Marcus Cantarsi's aggro list seemed pretty strong. So, and like they said in the deck profile on Crossworld, it's missing something. And I kind of agree. I think that there's just if it can get that one piece to kind of like get it over the hump and solve its issues, it'd be pretty good. The other thing that's kind of like interesting to think about, like if Scientist Fu was played in that, is the new overwhelm choice. Because Finding His Fate is gone. So, we'll see. Blue Baby. Yeah, Blue Baby be pretty good. I don't know why it's still relevant, but it's still pretty good. The guy who talked with it recently, the list was really solid. He was playing a lot of good bomb cards, especially like King Cold that like Mills. The top like 5 or 6 cards off the top of your opponent's deck. That's pretty good. Android 16. Oh my gosh, Android 16. This is a deck that people are going to need to watch out for. Okay? Mark my words. Android 16 is going to get really good. Okay? Number one, the new super combo. That new super combo is insane. In Android 16. Like, mark my words. Like I will not be surprised if Android 16 starts becoming a top played blue deck. And no joke, that the SPR version in set 17 jumps to like 30 to $50 a piece. Like, I could see that new super combo because of blue green and like what people want to do with it. It being a skyrocketed priced card. So yeah, Bojack. Bojack is another leader that I think that people should look at. I think it's got a solid awaken condition, and I think that its pieces are really good. And the untapped 4 energy, that's ridiculous. So, yeah, I like it a lot. And then Invoker. It's red blue, but I think Invoker is still going to be a huge top deck. Yeah, not a whole lot to say. I think a lot of these blue decks also, I'm looking at like Invoker, 16, Reboot, and Baby. All 4 of those decks are going to be very committed players who have taken the time to figure their deck out. But when they do, they will have a mass advantage over everyone else. Only reason why I say Reboot is because Reboot is kind of in the like hand destruction vein. Feels a little bit bad against hand destruction. So like Starter Brawly, Cell. I mean, Gotenks can play some hand destruction, but not really. I wouldn't build it that way. 16 has a little bit of hand destruction in it. And then blue in general has like Turning the Tide. Which SS3 does not have access to. Other blue leaders do. And so it really struggles at generating an early hand advantage, but there's a lot you can do to net yourself some good energy manipulation and ramping and getting your cards just right where you want them. So not a whole lot to say about that, and I think that blue is in a pretty middle of the road, middle of the pack color with a lot of upper potential. Now to what I think is the best color in the game. And I have only 4 leaders here, like I did for green. But when I list off these 4 leaders, you're immediately just probably going to agree that yellow has like the strongest representation of good leaders to choose from of any of them. Now I realize I listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 leaders for blue. And I have, obviously, U7 is up there for red, GT's up there for red, but none of the other colors, in my opinion, even in black now, have enough of a consistent tournament presence, winning strategies, as well as difficult to play against their strategies, minus the new 17 Piccolo that I'm going to mention. All of the other 3 are just like really good. So starting with yellow, we do have that Piccolo 17, set 17 Piccolo. I really like the Leader's Awakening condition. I like some of the cards in there. I like the way that they interact. The Namekians interact. I could see some really, really good play from the Namekian support that we already have, plus what we're getting. And so I'm really excited for this deck. I think that it's the lowest of the 4 in the yellow list that I have, but I do think that it is good. Moving up to what I consider probably like number 3 on the list, Sin Shenron. For some stupid reason, this leader doesn't get errated and nothing gets touched in this deck, and it has been around for God knows how long. The only thing that they're missing is like a searchable super combo that they could tutor out of their deck off their leader ability, or somehow resurrect with Homeboy Nova Shenron or something like that. But this deck just continues to be a menace in every format. The 9-drop is basically turns all your cards skillless for the turn that they're played, minus on play autos, and then turns them into whatever they are, beat sticks, while having blocker and revenge, and stands with I think it's Oceanus, the one that bursts and then restands one of your blockers, and then Omega Shenron, the card that like basically becomes another Shadow Dragon, warping one of them out of your drop area, gaining all of its skills, is one of the most versatile cards in the game. And then obviously it has a tournament promo for 1 energy that draws a card and is a 30k triple strike. And then that's all before you get over the fact that, you could either play an aggro version that like self-awakens you and just blitzes your opponent with a bunch of crit swings and death, or you could play a defensive build that if by turn 4 they have 6 to 8 life still, you've probably lost the game. Like, literally, you've probably lost the game, barring some strategy that, like, if blue gets to, like, turn 7 somehow, or SS4 Vegeta gets to turn 5, and they drop Turning the Tide on you, you're actually going to cry as the Sin Shenron player. So, yeah, not a lot to say. Sin Shenron, the tap 6 ability is just absolutely nuts. Why they ever thought that needed to exist is beyond me, but it is what it is, right? Next, which I think is a number 2 deck, and one that like needs to be revisited by everybody. I don't know why people decided to stop playing this deck after now. It's with Golden Frieza. Golden Frieza is like completely stupid and just continues to get better with every good yellow card that comes out. That red unison that like now not that red unison, yellow unison that draws a card and then gains 5k and triple attack on the -3. Yeah, gonna be pretty good. Yeah. I don't know why people, don't want to play this. Excuse me. But I mean, I look at it this way. It plays Robotic Riposte better than any other deck. Like, it can turn your negate into 2 energy back on your next turn while being a 50k pressure piece. So you get more utility out of the cards. It draws an absolute crap ton of cards. Hyper consistent across the board. It's getting the new Crossroad. I actually talked about this, I think either today or yesterday in a video. That new Trunks cantrip that basically like swings, you take a life, and at the end of the turn it stands again. That is exactly what Golden Frieza needed for Self-Awakening. For multiple reasons. If your opponent doesn't out the card, basically you get to like choose your Self-Awakening, right? The second thing is this. You're going to be plussing more cards, essentially. And that leader is like the leader's Awaken turn. If you map it properly, you play a cantrip, draw a card, sack the cantrip, untap an energy, draw a card, draw 2 to Awaken, swing with leader, play a cantrip, which you'll draw a card, play a cantrip, draw a card, sack the cantrip, and then like draw a card, untap 2 energy. So cantrip draw, sack draw 2, cantrip draw, swing draw, sack the cantrip, draw a card. That's 7 cards in 3 energy untapped in 1 turn. If you don't think that's dumb, I don't know what to tell you, okay? And this leader is still broken. Can also play a card called Cold Bloodlust. In case anyone forgot about that counterplay card, it's really good. Just saying. And then lastly, I just have to talk about what it just seems to me has to be the best yellow deck in the game. And I didn't even think about this. I was so excited by all the cards on the ban list that I'd forgot that Poutine still exists. But Yellow Trunks, I just don't see a world where Yellow Trunks is not way better than it was. Gogeta Xeno being removed from the format basically means that the blocker is now not facing a top deck every game where it has 4 copies of a card that can either be retrieved out of the warp off the auto limits or hard drawn that will out the blocker. Also, you could easily bait that blocker's effect. And between it and the Poutine, I just don't see how, like, it's not going to be broken. I just don't. Barrier removal is very important. Yellow as a tutor strategy, that's another one of the reasons why Piccolo is going to be good. Because I forgot to mention this. The ability to tutor out the Slug Namekian 3-drop. Oh, God. That card's about to jump in price and be, like, in everyone's back pocket. But, Yellow Trunks can essentially play... It plays its core engine cards, and you can either decide to go the top end, of, like, with a critical, or, like, supplement in basically every good yellow card in the game. It has less versatility than Icarus because the engine to make what Icarus worked, like, the engine of Icarus was just a lot smaller. So, like, to make the deck work, you didn't necessarily have to play and fill up as many slots. But let's be 1,000% honest here. It is not like the slots that you're replacing those with to make your quote-unquote engine work. I mean, there's lots of things that you could say that is better than Icarus at. Number one, the 3-drop Trunks is one of the dumbest blockers ever to exist. Period. Barrier, blocker, rest a card. Unison or battle card on play. On top of that, you have Poutine. Okay? And then to make it worse, you have a barrier removal card. Okay? That in the Vegeta, the evolved targets of those are free played off your leader every single turn. And every single turn, you have the potential to draw 3 cards. That's nuts. Okay, so if you looked at Icarus, Icarus could swing, activate main to play the Skillless, draw, and then I think combo the Skillless, draw. Yeah, that's what Icarus did. But basically to do the same thing Icarus does, which admittedly is for free, to do the same thing Icarus does to draw its 3, you do that all in one turn for 1 energy, basically. So I'll kind of take it. Now, obviously you have to commit that energy, but I think that, like, Trunks' tools are just, like, I mean, the ability to just have access to that barrier blocker, it's one of the most annoying things I've ever seen. Like, I've just sat down for my opponents that are just literally not having fun. They're just not having fun. Like, I play, like, Forbidden Power or, Robotic Riposte, and it's just like, why? Like why must people do this to me? So the only thing is that yellow does not have a good blue or blue-yellow supplement anymore to make it get pushed over the edge. And so that's kind of like where I stand with it. I don't think Yellow Trunks Yellow Trunks could be the best deck in the game. It's really hard for me to say that it's not. Especially because the Piccolo Unison got hurt from U7. Basically, like, U7 made Yellow colossally suffer. Like, I don't know if you ever tried playing that matchup, but it is terrible in ways that you like honestly can't fathom. Okay, so the first thing to note is that Poutine is basically never going to live, so long as they have so long as they have like the Vegeta. So if they get Vegeta, basically your Poutine is like a toast strategy. Anytime you like invest in your cards, if you blocked with the blocker at any point against basically every card in the deck minus 17, the leader swing or the unison swing, you're essentially having to commit cards to protect it because like every card it plays, you have the Frieza, the Crit Vegeta, the Goku. You know, they all essentially like are 19. So yellow's having to spend that cash to keep that blocker on the board if they can't easily reestablish it next turn. And then to make it worse, they have multiple effects that can just immediately goad and bait out that blocker. Like, way too easy. Like, like it just doesn't matter. I mean, it honestly just doesn't matter. Now, obviously, at the top end, you could talk about how, like, yeah, well, you know, the Trunks blocker is going to be, like, really good at, like, stalling them to turn 5 because basically, like, they can't just drop SCR in turn 4, all this other stuff. Yeah, but that's provided that they just don't go, like, aggro rush on, like, all their other cards and just start swinging and make you spend the cash. The other thing is that U7, basically, whenever you countered, like, you counter with Rock Riposte and Descendant of the King just popped it, like, felt terrible. And then because U7 is a mill deck, if they hit Koitsukai in the middle of everything, it really felt bad. Because, I mean, between the Goku blocker, which literally, in my Trunks build, I took the Goku blocker out of the deck for Giant Ball. Because of how bad that felt. Robotic Riposte, the Frieza Army Negate, Poutine, at Bergamo. I mean, just whatever you would want to play on your opponent's turn just gets trashed by Koitsukai. And this is all before, like, all the cards you want to play don't auto die either to the unison or the counterplay effects. So, like, for example, if you countered with the Frieza Negate and they had Piccolo Jr. face up, it didn't do anything. You just negated the attack for nothing. Goku blocker, same thing. Piccolo just kills it. This is provided that they don't just drop a Yamcha and a Goku to pop some other stuff on your board. Because, like, yeah, that happens. That all goes into pending. But, like, say you have Vegeta on the board. You have, like, Vegeta, the Mecha Frieza, like, Vegeta, a Mecha Frieza, and then some other, like, card that, like, you can mine. I don't know, like a Basil or something, right? Then, like, Yamcha plus Goku plus that effect was just like in a wipe of 3 of your cards. And this is all before, like, if you wanted to commit to trying to flood them under a Koitsukai, which then after the side they bring in all 4 and it just feels completely terrible from here. So I mean, like, I can't stress enough how much, like, that unison was, even though it still won, was so cancerous to it. And because that unison's kept in check by the amount of frequency, the U7 matchup does get a little bit better, but not much better. So and again, like, it's funny. Like I laugh about it on the video, but, like, honestly, Yellow Trunks is breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief. I still don't think, though, that, like, I don't think it's just outright better than U7. I think that it just got a little bit better because you're not going to see Piccolo Jr. in your face every turn. The same thing with KP. Like, KP was probably also keeping Yellow Trunks out because of the unison play. I mean, I imagine a world where you could have played Weenie Rush starter deck SSB Vegeta with Descendant of the King and have a lot of the similar results. So, yeah. But that pretty much does it for me, guys, on this video. I'm actually really glad that I sat down and like thought about and wrote these leaders down, because honestly, the meta doesn't seem as condensed as I thought it would. I was thinking Hatchiyak, Dark Brawly, Yellow Trunks, obviously, U7, GT, um, maybe the new cooler deck, Incel, um, Invoker, but then in SS4. But then when I sit down and made this list and like thought a lot about it, I was like, wow, like a lot of good leaders you could play, and so I was really excited to bring this to you. I hope you guys get some ideas about what you could play, maybe some of the cards to look out for. Like I said, for that Android 16, man, we got that new super combo is going to be so good. It literally might be worth me trying to play the deck again just for that alone. But yeah, there's not much more I think that I can really add to this. Nothing more really I can really say about another deck. Other than there is actually one other card. I'm not sure if it's an SR. This is going to go back to blue for Android 16. There's a Deflect Android 17 and 18 that basically is dual attack. Comes in, bottom decks a card, I think of a card that's like greater than their energy cost, and can be played from your energy basically by tapping one blue and a green, and it can basically be played for one energy, and then the super combo on taps that energy. So like, oh yeah, it's gonna be good. I'm super excited, and I think that like Android 16 is probably gonna get all their cards bought out if they haven't already. But let me know what you guys think of the list of leaders. Let me know if you're playing any of these, you're looking at them going into the next format. I'm super excited to see what 17 brings, because I'm personally looking forward to playing GT. But that pretty much does it for this video, guys. I will see you guys next time. This is Alex from TCG Discussions, signing off. Laters.